Speaking of making history, we are making history today on ISF with our first ever taping of a podcast episode right here in our studio. I spent some time with our friends DJ and Ish from the Pero Let Me Tell You podcast, and they dished on all things South Florida. And they told me, oh my gosh, we are recording a live podcast right now with the fellas of Pero Let Me Tell You, DJ and Ish. Glad to have you here on Inside South Florida.
Glad to be here.
Thank you for having us.
This is a first for us.
Oh, okay. So
We are breaking new media ground here, recording a podcast, also doing an interview on television at the same time. So let's do it, guys.
it's a little meta.
It's very meta. I have to know, you guys are first really good friends. Congratulations on 6 seasons of a really good podcast. Lawyer.
Yeah.
Come on. Okay. Attorney, advertising executive. How did you two come together and create this podcast, as well as this friendship?
Well,
DJ,
the friendship stems at Riviera Middle School many years ago. We became friends when we were kids. And we've always had a really good, banter and chemistry, as they will. And after a while, just knowing somebody for so long, you could kind of finish each other's sentences.
Yeah. 30 years.
But really, and we always used to say, oh, we should have our own show. But really, it came from when, some years ago, he was moving down from New York.
Really, that trip down was where we got the idea. We just started talking about it, and it started with the name. The name is really the genesis of everything. And then about a couple months passed, and one day I literally just called him up, because it's not a day that goes by that we don't talk to each other. And I was like, hey, that podcast idea, are you still cool with it? He's like, yeah, sure, why not? Great, because I just ordered the mic, I ordered the recording, I already got us an Instagram handle, I got us an email account, I had already just set everything
It was
up.
happening.
Right,
it was happening.
This is going to happen. But I mean, how awesome is it that two friends that you guys have been friends for a long time are coming together in a time where the podcast is king? I mean, 6 seasons of this, very successful. People love you here in Miami, love you across the country. And here we are on ISF doing the podcast. Okay, so you guys cover everything, but I'm gonna quote you because you guys say that the show is, quote, POV that's 100% Latino y 100% Americano.
Yeah.
Representation is so important right now.
Absolutely.
Especially in a time where people have access to something like this, a podcast and media and streaming and all the things. Why did you double down on that, Ish?
Well, here's the thing. We always say this, when we decided to do a podcast, we got to be authentic. We got to be ourselves, right? We can never pretend to be, 2 white guys from Kansas, because that's just not what we are. So we've got to be Cuban American, because that's what runs through us. But then there's that thing of well, we're not 50-50, we're not 60-40. We're born in the States, we grew up here. But culturally, we grew up, being Cuban American. So you got to own full 100 and full 100, and just navigate both those worlds. And the more you talk about it, my marketing background has shown that that's really where it comes down to. Is people don't want to have to pick, because you don't turn off certain parts of yourself.
100%.
You're always who you are,
right?
Across the board.
And then added to that the layer of South Florida and Miami. I think that South Florida is a microcosm unto itself. The culture here is very, very unique. And especially when it comes down to Latin culture, so many times we hear over and over again, Latins are not a monolith, but so many times we are treated as a monolith. And the content out there is not written by us or produced by us. And then it's just this really watered down content. And that's one of the things in our podcast that we really strive for. We talk like people from Miami. And I think that one of the reasons why our podcast has been so successful is because we have people that maybe were originally from here who live in other parts of the world now, or other parts even of the United States, and they feel they're at home when they're listening to us. They feel they're talking to their primos and their cousins and their family members. They're back at home, yelling at each other but loving each other, and we really tap into that on the show.
All right, so where can we stream the podcast, DJ?
Well, people can follow us on Instagram on Pero Let Me Tell You. That's obviously our home base is our Instagram page, but the podcast can be streamed anywhere on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, everywhere.
Everywhere
you'll find
YouTube, and really, with bringing up the Instagram, we do have a link to all the audio platforms on there. So you just go to the Insta, go to the
shop.
Yeah. We're all about efficiency here.
You guys are the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
No, thank you.